What I like the most about him, though, is to be honest with you, and this seems to be something that has been more, corners in the football era that kind of we grew up in. Corners were always kind of the smaller guys, very athletic, but they were small, right? So they were easily dominated, unless if you were just very talented in locking down the opposition with wide
Yeah.
receivers. But for the most part, if you had a big wide receiver, you were licking your lips because, they would have a field day with some of these corners that were in the league. But now we're starting
Megatron
to
definitely
see
did.
Megatron, perfect example. Just an absolute, I mean, now granted, I think that he could have gone up against anybody and he would have been great. But perfect example, just huge physical guy. That's why we saw these wide receivers like the Megatrons, the Julio Jones, the Mike Evans, these kind of guys that came into the league and just completely dominate. Even Des Bryant, big physical dude. I mean, like he was able to dominate the corners. But now we're in a time where over the last, I would say, like maybe like 2 or 3 years now, we've been seeing tall corners and they're getting more physical. So that's kind of like the small athletic corner is starting to kind of fade away, and we're going into this very physical, just athletic human that can really cause a headache for any offenses.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beard Zone podcast, college episode this time.
Boom.
Dave, how we doing?
Sir, it's been real. It's been good, man. I think we're on our final little list of potential these draft prospects. We've kind of broke down all of the, I mean, we didn't really go over offensive line, which maybe next week. We still have a little bit of time. Maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're watching this for the very first time, I'm David. That's Scooter. We're co-hosts of the Beard Zone podcast. We are a trio, but Theo focuses on the NFL side of things. So we're all three on that episode, but me and Scooter have been breaking down the different positions that are going to be coming into this year's draft. And man, I'm excited for this one because we got a lot of explosive players on this list right here. Let's break down everything DB.
Yes, cornerbacks specifically this time. And if anyone's been paying attention, we've been hitting skill positions on offense, and we've switched to our defense side this time. And
Right.
You know what? We might bounce back to the offensive line because you know what? The big guys in the middle is where really championships are won, getting that extra edge. But I would like to talk to the same people that Caleb Williams will most likely be throwing to, because I don't think he's going to do very well. So, cornerbacks.
Oh, so you're not talking wide receiver. You're talking about corners.
Yes. And if anyone pays attention on the memes and everything from a couple of years ago, it was, playing Xbox, Madden, and watching Tony Romo throw to the defense. It's the same concept with Caleb Williams that I see. So we're going to talk about cornerbacks. And first one up, the unsung heroes of Iowa football, right? We all know that their offense sucked, and we all know that their punter was the best guy on the field. But Iowa Hawkeyes defense was phenomenal this past year, and you can't go without mentioning Cooper DeJean. He's 6'1" on a good day. I guess he's actually 6'1.5". But he's also 203, maybe 205. There's discrepancy there, but he ran a 4.5 40. And that's actually pretty quick. And if anyone looks at the DBs as a whole in the 40 times, they're all roughly around 4.5. So Cooper DeJean, what's his strengths, right? He's excellent physical cornerback. He does well in zone and man. Anyone who says he doesn't do well in man, you need to watch the second half of the season because he did fantastic. He does great in press. He has good vision, good route recognition. He's a very good return specialist. Iowa had put him into the punting game or kick return game, and they actually put him in on offense a few times. So he is quite versatile. However,
what I like the most about him, though, is, to be honest with you, and this seems to be something that has been more, corners in the football era that kind of we grew up in. Corners were always kind of the smaller guys, very athletic, but they were small, right? So they were easily dominated, unless if you were just very talented in locking down the opposition with wide receivers. Yeah. But for the most part, if you had a big wide receiver, you were licking your lips because, they would have a field day with some of these corners that were in the league. But now we're starting to
definitely
see
did.
Megatron, perfect example. Just an absolute, now granted, I think that he could have gone up against anybody and he would have been great. But perfect example. Just huge physical guy. That's why we saw these wide receivers like the Megatrons, the Julio Jones, the Mike Evans, these kind of guys that came into the league and just completely dominate. Even Des Bryant, big physical dude. He was able to dominate the corners. But now we're in a time where over the last, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 years now, we've been seeing tall corners and they're getting more physical. So that's kind of like it, the small athletic corner is starting to kind of fade away, and we're going into this very physical, just athletic human that can, really cause a headache for, any offenses.
So, absolutely, dude. And the physicality of Cooper DeJean is pretty on par. And the next two guys that we're actually going to talk about are very good at that as well. And that's what we want to see, is a more physical DB. Yeah. Now, in cornerbacks specifically, and as you play free safety and stuff like that, what a quarterback is looking at is how well you move your hips when you open up or when you sit there and you close down on the inside route. Cooper DeJean has very good speed, but not so good short area quickness, that burst, right? Look at Bland from this past year in his rookie season. Excellent closing speed. Look at Sauce Gardner. Good closing speed. And Cooper DeJean, to me, he has some tweaking. He's a very good talent. But if you give him just a little coaching, I think we might see the development of the cornerback broadening for him. So if I were to look at Cooper DeJean, I would say he's like a Jamel Dean, similar to him. He does well in zone. He's very versatile. He can play in the slot as well if you need a flex position on defense. You can also do he has smooth agility and back pedal. So when you're spying the quarterback and trying to keep the wide receiver on your face, the quarterback's watching where people are moving. And especially if it's a quick pass, if you've turned your body or opened your hips, because that means you're vulnerable to the inside pass, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're going to get burned because you can't turn. So does he need some work? Yes. Is he absolutely one of the top picks for a cornerback? Yes. Because he's strong. He can locate the ball. He doesn't have a lot of interceptions, but that's not to say he just can't turn around and be like, that's mine. So
okay.
I see him.
So where do you have him going, though? Oh. Who do you think would be the best fit for Cooper?
So
because for some reason, for me, he has Jaguars written all over him.
That would be a very solid pick.
I think that
now that's also granted that the other guys aren't taken. Now, I'm not saying he's Cooper DeJean's a risk. I think he's this goes with everything else we've said about.
So he's not the top guy off the board then.
No, I don't think he's number one corner. No.
Okay.
I think if someone goes for him, that means they absolutely know he fits in their scheme. Jaguars, that'd be very good. I would argue mentorship at the 49ers with Ward on the other side, or the Packers. Packers might be a decent fit.
49ers have a really good secondary.
Exactly. So there's a lot of senior mentorship there too, especially with Gypsy in there.
And he has a lot of help up front. With
dude,
the with
their
the line and with the
is
linebackers
ridiculous.
and everything. So that would be if I'm Cooper, and I'm sitting there at the end of the first round, and there's any hope for me with going day one, I would be really kind of hoping that I get a call from a California area code or a San Francisco area code.
Or you can go with Eagles, maybe.
Nah,
maybe.
I just don't like the Eagles, so I don't really care. I just think that they should just trade. No, they're not gonna take him. They're gonna take your next guy because he's a Georgia guy, and that's what Philly does. Anybody, if you're a Georgia Bulldog, just get used to Philadelphia. Go ahead, buy your house in Philly because they're going to draft you. It's just that simple.
Dude, Kirby Smart has done something that Nick Saban has historically done with Alabama. Kirby Smart has designed an absolute pathway for defensive players to the NFL, and that absolutely leads us to our next guy, is Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia, the cornerback. He's about the same size as Cooper DeJean. He's a little less in weight, about 186, runs a 4.58, surprisingly slightly slower. However, I'm going to rattle off some stats that may or may not blow up your mind. In last year alone, he had an 84.3 grade at his position, which is 16th overall. Not bad, right? He had a target to reception ratio for the wide receivers at 37.5.
What does that mean? How do you break that down?
So basically, less than 40% of the time you throw to the wide receiver he's covering, they're not going to catch the ball.
Damn.
That's a big problem for quarterbacks and wide receivers. He has a 40.7% snap to reception in man coverage. So not only that, he has almost the same exact ratio or percentage of catch in man coverage, which is very good. The last thing, not one touchdown was scored on this guy. So
that's big.
And the SEC no less, right? Where we had a Heisman winner dropping bombs all over the place. This guy, Kamari Lassiter, did not give up a point.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you, because I don't want to backtrack, but talking about Cooper, he's a great corner, but who did he go up against? But talking about Kamari Lassiter, he's in the SEC, so he's gone up against the guys, the guys who are going to be off the board, probably within the top 10. He has. Now, granted, I don't even want to take the risk because I'm a new college guy, so I'm still trying to figure out the divisions. But if I'm not mistaken, he went up against Marvin Harrison Jr., correct?
So, yes. So Cooper DeJean's one of his best games on tape is against one of the best wide receivers in this draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., which is supposed to be the next coming.
Best wide receiver.
Yeah.
A lot of people are arguing, neighbors, which I get, but
I think both are equally very, very capable. But I think Marvin Harrison edges him out on, I think, speed and agility.
Yeah, and overall, I still throw my guy Rome Odunze up there, but I'm biased.
Dude. But if you're looking for guys to be physical, Kamari Lassiter absolutely jams you up at the line. He has excellent coverage skills. And on top of that, not only is he good at man, he can shift to zone. If you watch Georgia's defense, and anyone who watches SEC football, college football in general, knows that SEC defenders are probably the most elite guys, not only in speed, but talent and coachability, right? You got scheme intelligence there with Kamari Lassiter. You also have an extremely good tackling ability. What have we seen out of Georgia's defense? Absolute premier talent of the past 3 years. They almost three-peated, and they lost in the SEC championship game. I know a bunch of the Georgia buddies I got, and I know my buddy McDonald. He's a huge Alabama guy, and I know Floyd, you got some buddies or family from Alabama too. So I know Alabama beat them, but I still think Georgia had the better team. I said it. and
So
especially on defense.
here's a question for you, because Kamari Lester, is he gonna be for a day one guy?
I think he is a steal for second.
Because if he's
a
not a day
second-round
one
steal.
guy, I got some teams that we're pretty sure with the direction that they're going to go in day one, and it's not defensive back. But if we're talking about day 2, day 3, maybe, what about the Los Angeles Chargers? You could pair
Dude,
up
they
with
need some
Asante
help on
Samuel.
defense.
Right, they do.
Absolutely.
They need some help on defense, and to go up against the receivers that he's going to be going up against in that division. So
Yeah.
that could be a big help. Tennessee Titans, they could use some help in their secondary.
And they just signed someone too, didn't they? Ladarius Sneed.
Oh, they did. Oh, so then never mind. I mean, maybe
it'd be an excellent mentorship moment for him to go to the Titans and possibly play on the other side of the field. I think that'd be fantastic for him to do if he doesn't end up at the Chargers. And on top of that, if you remember last year,
what about the Chiefs taking him?
Did the Chiefs? Come on, y'all. Come on.
Well, I'm just saying, because they got rid of Sneed.
That'd be
So depending on how they want to go with their 30, they're in the second round. They're the last pick of the first round. So what if they just, depending on who is left, right? Because there are a couple of guys here on your list that I've been kind of thinking about, and I definitely want to touch base on them because their name seems to be popping up more and more, and I just want to know more about them, to be honest.
What about the Bucks?
See the Bucks, but the only thing about it is that I feel like because we just lost Carlton Davis.
I know.
So maybe
we need a physical guy to do this, and I'm not saying that Kamari Lester.
But I feel like if he's going to go day 2,
he could be.
I feel like if he's going to go day 2, you're hoping that he falls to you, because the teams that we're listing are mid to late round, second round picks, because they have mid to late round first round picks.
Yeah.
So you're either going to have to reach for him. Say if a couple of the defensive backs are off the board and he's sitting there, do you reach for him, or do you say, let's go another route and then hope that he falls back down to us, or see if we can't trade back up to grab him?
Yeah.
So he's kind of like one of those guys who he could add value, but it's in the middle.
The difference between Cooper DeJean and Kamari Lester is I think Cooper's still potential first round draft pick. Maybe late or early second round. But I think with Kamari Lester, I think what you're seeing here is a pretty raw talent guy that played well with Georgia. And we need to see if he can translate that to the pros. And I think him being compared to Devin Witherspoon from, I think he played for, was it Seattle? I think it would be a good one-to-one raw talent. And the team, him going to San Diego and the Titans, I think would be a very interesting pick. That kind of Kamari Lassiter.
No, what team?
San Diego. Oh, LA Chargers. Damn, dude.
I was just like, I'm just gonna wait to see if he recognizes it.
Show my unwillingness to change.
The team that just can never seem to win.
They've always had talent too.
They've always been really good, but they just can't win.
Now they got Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh I know he's very offensive minded, but he's still shown with Michigan that he's very smash mouth type football, smash mouth defense, right? So Georgia translates well to that, I think.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a physical dude, look no further than Notre Dame. And having family that went to Purdue, I don't like acknowledging that Notre Dame had talent. But they did. They absolutely did. And they got a good set of dudes coming in this draft class. Cam Hart, 6'3", 202 pounds. I think that's very light for him, to be honest. And he ran a 4.5. Again, with the 4.5. Dude is absolutely physical. And his best game was against Caleb Williams. So physically speaking,
that doesn't speak very.
I know, right? Because Notre Dame lit him up. So broad jump. 11'2". Vertical, 38 inches. So if you're
Gosh,
looking,
dang, dude.
I know, right? If you're looking for somebody to throw against physically, you want someone to tee up against potentially a DK Metcalf or, oh, who does Philly got? They got AJ Brown. Like, you want someone that's physical. Mike Evans, even potentially. I think those wide receivers would probably give Cam Hart a run for his money in the beginning, but I think Cam can absolutely use his physicality and his strength to work that through. He's very good in coverage, and he's good at leading his team. I don't know if he'll be a team captain right off the bat, like some of these guys that we've seen take on leadership positions from a rookie like C.J. Stroud, but that's on the offense. On the defense, you got the middle linebacker who typically is running the show. Or
Well, and it's
strong
also the
safety.
quarterback position. But yeah, the middle linebackers are usually they have the C's on their chest, and then it kind of fluctuates. The thing about it is, and the thing that I can't get over is just his size, man. I mean, 6'3", 202, which I do feel like is probably a little bit
I think
light.
that's a light measurement. I think there was some cutting.
I think he's probably gonna. Well, no, I don't think he's gonna get beefier in the NFL, right? So, yeah, man. I mean, dude, just a 6'3" corner 4 years ago, 5 years ago was unheard of.
Would dominate. Like Richard Sherman. Imagine Richard Sherman with a lot of weight on. That's what you're gonna get with Cam Hart. Maybe not with all the interceptions and stuff. I think he's a 3rd round pick, and I think that's a steal, to be honest. And he's got a history of injuries, and I think that's why he's potentially going 3rd round to see if he's got the healthy side to it. And they equate him.
What injuries though?
I couldn't remember.
Okay,
I think it was earlier on. I think it was like his freshman or sophomore year. He had something going on. But if anyone remembers Martin Emerson from Mississippi State, and you want to look at someone similar as far as physicality, but I think if you took Richard Sherman and you threw on some weight, that's probably who you got with Cam Hart. And he played 12 games last year, only 16 tackles and 2 pass breakups, but he doesn't provide space to the wide receiver, right? A lot of these guys that went up against Cam Hart did not get a lot of space. Like, how Mike kind of pushes off, or Julio kind of pushed off. DK Metcalf pushes off. We all know that. But like, if you have a big physical wide receiver that can kind of move you around, you're not going to be able to do that with Cam Hart. And I think if you look at a guy that could potentially be a steal, like you think he's got injuries, you think you see all these guys going on.
So to touch on the injury thing, I just looked it up, and it says that it looks like it was a shoulder injury. So,
okay, maybe I was wrong then. But
my thing is that like if it's not anything major like an ACL and stuff like that, because you have to think about the explosiveness that these guys are going to be having to do on the field. Now it's not as explosive as like I would say like an edge rusher. Those guys are launching off as soon as the ball is snapped. Wide receivers, they're doing it. Corners are more of they're definitely, they have to be smart, right? I think that the corners next to the quarterbacks, I think that the defensive backs are the smartest guys on the field.
Well, they have to have a high football IQ and play recognition, because if you look at a guy like Cooper DeJean, Cooper DeJean watches a lot of film. He knows he doesn't have that gap closing ability. Cam Hart does have that gap closing ability. We saw with the explosiveness of the broad jump and vertical, right? And on top of that, he has a high football IQ. So if you can do a lot of play recognition, it was like I was watching, I think it was Greg Olson on an older podcast talk about Luke Kuechly, right? They couldn't leave him in on practice because he already knew what they were running without even knowing the playbook. He's like, oh, you lined up like this, you're doing a counter play, or you're doing play action with a deep post. So he already knew how to set up. I think Cam Hart's IQ, I'm not saying he's like Luke Kuechly, right? Because that's vastly different. What I'm saying is that I think Cam Hart's football IQ at cornerback is pretty close to that level of understanding. Like they were saying, C.J. Stroud had a really high football IQ coming out of Ohio State, and everyone was like, "Oh, Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson this, and look who balled out last year." So I think if you want to take a look at how smart your guys are, probably take a look at Cam Hart if you want someone who understands how to read an offense from the defensive point of view.
Okay. That's going to be huge. And I mean, to pair it with his athleticism, I think is going to be something that a lot of teams are going to maybe want to take that risk on, even knowing that there was some injuries there. Again, I think it was, from what I'm seeing, it was just a shoulder injury, but I didn't do too much of a dig on it. But dude, the film study is so important, man. Like, it's just so important, especially in the defensive back position, because
you have God-given talent and you
have to
your own work ethic. If your work ethic is there, you will absolutely outperform those with raw talent.
And you have to think about the position that you're going up against, right? I mean, everyone wants to line the wide receiver and the defensive back up, which obviously that makes sense, right? But I feel like that the defensive backs and the quarterbacks are having their own little form of chess match, And if you look at the quarterbacks that are in today's NFL, dude, there's a lot of young talent in the NFL right now. A lot of young talent in the NFL at the quarterback position, which is great. As a football fan,
seeing a generational change.
I love it. Right, exactly.
So we're seeing it with the DBs. Because remember, we had Richard Sherman and Darrelle Revis and Rondé Barber in for the longest time, right? And now we're seeing that these new guys come in like Sauce Gardner and Devin Witherspoon, and now we're going to be seeing the next generation come in this time. I think we're seeing a fundamental shift in the NFL and how we're going to start playing football, not only because of the rule changes that we've recently gone over, but the guys in the raw talent versus work ethic, right? How coachable are you? How well are you willing to adapt? DBs, wide receivers, I think you can just step onto the field and kind of be pretty decent. The DBs, like cornerbacks, you get burned once or twice, you may never see the field again. Quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, depending on the talent level, you know what I mean?
It's not just talent.
You know what team that we haven't talked about, though? Sorry to interrupt you.
You're good.
But you know what team that we haven't talked about that just kind of did like a whole reset that could benefit from one of these guys that we were talking about was the Texans. Buffalo Bills.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
The Bills do need some defensive help, too.
That would be something that I could see happen, especially for some of these guys that we were talking about, like the Kamari Lester, the Cam Hart, maybe the guys that aren't going to be going for day one.
Yeah.
But they'll be there and they could be available for the Buffalo Bills. One name I want to shift gears a little bit here to kind of wrap this episode up. There's been two names that I've been seeing consistently in mock drafts.
Okay.
And one has the best name by far. Like, I absolutely love this guy's name. And it's Kool-Aid McKinstry. Guy from Alabama. He's 6'3". He's a big dude. He's another big physical guy. But I'm seeing him day one a lot. And I've been seeing him going to the Lions a lot. So I want to have you kind of like your opinion about that, because besides the awesome name, what do we get from a Kool-Aid McKinstry outside of the physical quarterback? Is he going to be a guy who can come in and he can line up against the number ones right off the rip?
Yes,
he is.
So what you saw in Alabama's last run with Nick Saban was this is the defense that you want, right? Same thing with the Kirby Smart development in Georgia. So Kool-Aid McKinstry, which is his nickname, it's not his real legal name, but McKinstry is fantastic. I think he shows a blend of going back for some of our younger dudes, but like Revis Island and Rondé Barber. Rondé Barber was more of a zone guy, and Revis was man up. And that was his side of the field, and you never threw to that side. Let's be real.
Right.
I think Kool-Aid shows that. He has very good closing speed, very good footwork, and he doesn't open up his hips prematurely, like I was saying with Cooper DeJean. I think McKinstry has that extra edge in coachability, obviously coming from the Nick Saban stuff. And remind yourself, Trayvon Diggs. That's the level of corner that you're probably going to get. Clinton Dix from the safety standpoint. Defensively, Alabama's performed very well in the NFL. And obviously with the running back farming that they did, basically, same thing with Georgia. So what you're getting is quality defensive backs from Alabama, and taking Kool-Aid McKinstry early on is an absolute steal. Like the Jags that you mentioned earlier, or the Colts, Texans, Broncos probably need someone on the other side of Patrick Surtain. Maybe even the Bills go to jump up and take him. I mean, if the Chargers don't take defense in the very beginning, again, going back to the Chargers argument, they could easily benefit from a Kool-Aid McKinstry. Especially when you got to go up against Patrick Mahomes, dude.
I've seen him go to the Bucks a couple of mock drafts.
Oh my God. Sweet. You know, God, if you're listening. I know the Bucks just gave up Carlton Davis. I know, right? If the Bucks gave up Carlton Davis. And
we did.
What better way to solve that
Detroit, problem? Which is why I'm like, dude, if they get Kool-Aid, they'll have Carlton Davis and Kool-Aid, you know?
No.
And I don't want to drink any of that Kool-Aid.
No, you know? That would be the NFC North is going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Now, if he goes to the Bucks, that would be a great Band-Aid for that loss.
Okay.
Stop the bleeding on defense for sure.
Band-Aid, though. Are you saying temporary? Or
I mean, we still need depth at the defensive back. As we saw this past year for the Bucks, they absolutely need some depth. So they might take more defense.
We need depth at defensive back since Rondé Barber. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
We've always had he's pretty good, you know. But
dude, what was it?
If one of them goes down, it's over.
I can't remember. It was when we still had Jameis, but we went through the practice squad almost in defensive backs. I can't remember if it was his third year or second year with us, but
I'm pretty sure we signed a guy off the streets that year, if I'm not mistaken. I think
if the Bucks are listening, please take Kool-Aid McKinstry. We will not be angry with you.
We will not be angry with you at all. We will welcome Kool-Aid in Tampa with open arms.
That's a good add-on, dude. I appreciate that.
Hey, no, absolutely. One more guy that I want to talk about, and I feel like it's because I've heard. Now, watch me be completely wrong, right? But I mean, I'm the NFL guy. I'm not the college guy. I'm just here
really
for
good losing streak.
You know, dude, I'm on a fantastic losing streak right now. Absolutely fantastic. I still can't believe this is me digressing very hard right now. But I introduced the fellas to a brand new mobile game that I found. Okay, and it's called Retro Bowl. You have the NFL.
This is
and then you have the
plug.
College.
This is just
this is
pure
not
honesty.
A plug. This is not a plug.
Pure honesty.
Now, if they want to reach out to us, we'll be more than happy to talk business.
Retro Bowl and Retro Bowl College are fantastic mobile games, dude, and you will be addicted from the second you started.
Instantly. But I was on my 5th year, bro. I was on my 5th year, and I built an absolute monster of a roster. And
you lose again.
I deleted it. I deleted it, dude. I was like, why did I just do that? I was trying to get through. I was trying to fast, and I just hit a button. Anyway, completely digress. But yeah, it just ties into the losing streak. You know what I mean? So that. But Mitchell, what's this guy from Mitchell from Toledo? I heard that he didn't have that great of a combine.
Yeah, so the combine
it was supposed to be his prove it moment, wasn't it?
So you get these guys, and you just mentioned Kool-Aid, the hype, right? You drink you drink the drink, and sometimes it's not that good. So what you see though with I'm gonna mess his name up, Mitchell, sorry, from Toledo. I'm going to butcher his first name. I'm just not going to give it a shot. We're going to go with Mitchell from Toledo. All right, so
Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell from Toledo. On tape, you watch his film, he is fantastic. He is your shutdown, lockdown, your island. He is your guy. If you want another Sauce Gardner, you want another Devin Witherspoon, no joke guy, he is your dude. Or the dude from Clemson, I can't remember his name. But if you have Mitchell from Toledo, now going back to your combine comment, the combine is your raw athletic ability in public forum. Some guys perform well. Some guys only do certain events. Some guys do no events. I think Mitchell missed the buck here as far as displaying his raw athletic ability. That's not to say he is not a good pick. I still think he's like in the top 3. I would put him probably at 3. Toledo and the MAC don't necessarily have the level of competition. I'm not saying that they're second grade. They're still D1 athletes. They're still fantastic. But I think the MAC conference does not meet the level of competition that you say have in Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, SEC, the Big 5, right, and ACC. I would even argue that they're American Conference potentially. It's not to say that they don't have A+ athletes, right? Mitchell will absolutely fit the bill if you want that guy who you need to be lockdown guy, lockdown corner. Sorry. Combine wise, he did not prove the hype. That's not to say he doesn't fit the bill. Because people are still drinking the Caleb Williams Kool-Aid, and he did absolutely nothing.
I'm not drinking that, so I can talk crap about old Mitchell here. I don't know what his first name is. That's on us. That's bad. That's bad. Football podcast. Quinyon.
That is
Quinyon.
Most likely
Quinyon Mitchell. It's Quuiyon. Keon? Okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, dude. I'm a C student at best. But my whole thing is that if you can't perform at the combine, can you perform on the field? And I hate to say it like that, but it's like if this was your moment to really prove yourself, right? Then why can't you do it at the combine? Are you crumbling in big moments?
John Ross performed
John Ross
incredibly well at the combine and absolute garbage in the NFL. How many players have performed well at the combine and an absolute garbage in the NFL?
How many players have performed bad at the combine and played well?
Actually, quite a few. I can't remember off the top of my head, but quite a few.
Yeah, it sounds like a likely story there, Mr. Scooter.
Whatever. If you don't want to drink the Toledo Rocket Kool-Aid,
I'm not going to drink the Toledo Kool-Aid because I'm going to drink the Alabama Kool-Aid. That's who I want in Tampa. That's the real question. We'll see how. What if the Bucs drafted Mitchell?
The whole season.
See? Not as sold as the Kool-Aid.
True.
Not as sold as the Kool-Aid.
Like to my previous comment, though, it's the level of play with the level of athlete that the Big 5 conferences have versus the MAC and other guys. Like, again, the American Conference where the Bulls are, my alma mater, like, we have talent. And clearly we have talent that has performed well. You got MVS, you got Pierre-Paul, you had Mitchell when he played for the Browns, you got Johnson, Marlon Mack, you got there's plenty of other guys. But those guys were absolute stellar athletes. If Mitchell can prove that he's an absolute stellar athlete in work, there's a big difference in how you condition yourself and your work ethic than your talent. So if you can take somebody who came from Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, whatever, the list goes on, Notre Dame, USC, whatever, and you can prove...
How many more can you do?
Yeah, I know. If you can prove that you're like a Shannon Sharp, Michael Strahan, or Randy Moss, or you can be a guy from a lower-ranked school or whatever, and prove that you're worth it. Because we have had no-name dudes come in and absolutely wreck house in the NFL on these supposed smaller schools. Look what a perfect example is what Prime is doing when he did the HBCU run and went to Colorado. He's taking these guys that were absolute stellar athletes and trying to build them into men who understand work ethic, right? If you can get that work ethic to match college into the pros, you're going to be fine. That's the telltale sign of a true athlete, a true leader, is your work ethic.
I think to kind of wrap this up, I think that as long as you have the work ethic and as long as you have the dedication to continue to be coached, be, to hone your skills in, right? And I'm not sitting here trying to say that, oh, well, these guys, I mean, they've worked their tails off up until now to get themselves into this position at this point. But we've seen it before where a guy goes into the NFL, gets that money, I'm good. Anybody can be Mr. Irrelevant and go to the Super Bowl. Anybody. It all falls with the schemes that you fall into, the team that you have around you, and then ultimately the work ethic that you put into it off the field, between the Sundays, between the games during the regular season and during the postseason, and then how you condition yourself in the off season, how you take care of yourself in the off season. We now want to talk about longevity in the NFL because we've seen so many guys start to really kind of extend the career life of an NFL athlete, which is awesome. But it's because they've evolved. I mean, first of all, technology and science has, made leaps and bounds over the last several years. But on top of that, you have the guys who have really taken, hey, I need to start. The longevity of this, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And if you want a long career in the NFL, you have to do everything right. You have to train hard. You have to condition yourself. But you also have to be able to take care of yourself off the field. And that's what I think we have one of the longest, I think, if not the longest off season in any major sports, is because of what they have to put themselves through in the regular season. And then they just need time to recover, So, but any of these guys, I think if they put in the work and they fall into the right team, I think that they'll all do great. I don't think so. I'm just hoping that we get Kool-Aid in Tampa. That's all I'm just saying.
On that note, y'all, it's been a pleasure with this episode. Man, I know we've gone on a little longer, and we've brought up some solid points. And I think if you really want to pay attention to how we analyze things, you want to give us some pointers, that's great. Hit us up on our Gmail at thebeardzonepodcast@gmail.com, or on Facebook, we're the Beard Zone Podcast, or Twitter at Beard Zone Pod, or on Instagram at the Beard Zone Football Podcast. Hit us up on any of the socials. Let us know if we're idiots. Let us know if we're geniuses. Somewhere in between. Let us know if we can improve some stuff. If you want us to shut up, we'll either way. We'll still banter.
We're not going to shut up because we love what we do.
We're going to keep.
We're going to keep going, dude.
But we love y'all. Dave, you have anything before we let the people go?
Nothing, man. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We appreciate all the support. Leave a like, leave a comment, hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button if you haven't. And we'll be back later on this week with the NFL episode, kind of breaking down a little bit more into these drafts. 2 episodes every week. Have not determined the days yet. We're a little bit shaky with the schedule, but expect 2 episodes every week moving forward, starting with this week. So you'll be listening to this, guys, on Wednesday, I believe.
Yes, Wednesday.
So sorry, my days are blending together. But we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We can't thank you guys enough for all the support. Share this video with your family and friends. That is the best way to support us right now. And on that note,
Beard Zone out.